Welcome to podcast number 3 of our AI-generated news summary. Let's dive into the summaries of our top stories. Our next story is titled, Joy Reid claims black male Trump voters are part of a global fascist phenomenon. MSNBC's Joy Reid is a standard bearer for perpetually angry, post-menopausal cat ladies that do sadly tend to vote in large numbers. These are the same women coming out in droves to support Kamala Harris based purely on her gender and skin color. Democrats and leftist activists have spent the better part of the last decade calling masculinity a toxic and oppressive social disease. They have worked hard to demonize all men as potential rapists, misogynists, mass shooters and fascists. Now, not surprisingly, progressive women want men to lift them out of the hole they've dug for themselves. Reid's comments come not long after Barack Obama tried to shame black men into voting for Harris by accusing them of bias against her because she's a woman. We can now officially call Obama's smug speech the greatest political backfire of all time. Listen to black voters respond to Obama trying to shame them into voting for Kamala. Click here for more from CNN's iReport. Our next story is titled, Watch. Harris and Walz both claim Trump will deploy the military on Americans who don't support him. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz claimed that President Trump wants to use the military against Americans who disagree with him. Harris rolled out a montage of multiple mashed-together clips of Trump talking about the threat of the enemy within Walz, then spliced in a clip of him talking about radical leftists. Walz repeated the exact same lie about Trump sicking the military on Americans to a group of supporters, telling them, just so you're clear about that, that's you. And he is out for unchecked power and control over your lives. Harris and Walz are essentially parroting the propaganda of their own media mouthpieces such as Rachel Maddow, Hillary Clinton, and Michael Cohen. As per usual, they can't sell their candidate, so they have to try to discredit Trump with fear-mongering and/or lies. Is a complete contrived hoax using out-of-context clips. This is reckless, dangerous rhetoric. Tim should be ashamed of himself. Our next story is titled, Israel hurriedly sends 50 aid trucks into Gaza after scathing U.S. letter. 50 trucks loaded with supplies have entered northern Gaza, much of which was supplied by Jordan. Biden administration submitted a letter to the Israel government warning that the U.S. could withdraw key aspects of U.S. military aid to Israel. Letter issued by U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin is being widely considered the strongest written warning by the U.S. U.S. has received the letter and said that the country takes this matter seriously and intends to address the concerns raised. Oxfam. Israel must, starting now and within 30 days, act on a series of measures to rapidly boost aid to Tel Aviv. The message seems more timed for the November election. Israel accused of blocking aid, including trucks with American-supplied support. The U.S. could begin restricting or else throttling defense aid deliveries to Telephone Tel Aviv. It is being taken as a threat to restrict or else throttle defense aid delivery to the country. The UN Security Council has passed a resolution condemning Israel for blocking aid to Gaza. Our next story is titled, Israel's Iran attack plan ready and will happen before U.S. election. Officials. The timeline and parameters of Israel's retaliation against Iran have been subject to intense debate inside Israel's government. The Biden administration has also been intensely lobbying the Israelis to only hit military infrastructure in the Islamic Republic. Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said last week that Israel will soon respond to the missile attack, vowing it will be precise and deadly. Israel's Khan public broadcaster has meanwhile confirmed that the political echelon has already decided on the targets. It is expected that the retaliatory strikes are expected to happen before November 5. According to sources in the Israeli government, it has been reported that Israel's military response for Iran's October 1 ballistic missile attack is ready. It was also reported that the Israeli military response is expected to be ready before November 4. But sources have only revealed that it is likely to be before the end of the month. If not before then, in the next few days. The Israeli military has said that it will respond to Iran's missile attack with a precise response. Our next story is titled, Stealth Edit. FBI quietly revises violent crime stats higher. In September 2023, the FBI released the final crime data for 2022. There were an additional 1,699 murders, 7,780 rapes, 33,459 robberies, and 37,091 aggravated assaults. The FBI's new 2023 data show virtually no improvement, just a 0.2% drop, while the NCVS shows a 19% increase over that period. Polls show that Americans are concerned about crime. But the FBI and the media are making it difficult to see how crime rates have changed. A Gallup poll found in March that crime and violence is a top concern of Americans. The NCVS interviews 240,000 people each year about their personal experiences. The study found that NCVS numbers show that total violent crime has risen by 55.4% since Biden took office. Rapes are up by 42%, robbery by 63%, and aggravated assault by 55%. The news media didn't report the increase in violent crime in 2023. Our next story is titled, Musk Stumps for Trump in Pennsylvania. Donates nearly $75 million to PAC. Elon Musk is touring Pennsylvania until Monday to stump for former President Donald Trump. Musk has donated nearly $75 million to his America PAC and was the sole donor of $74,950,020. America PAC set a goal to get 1 million voters in Pennsylvania, Georgia, Nevada, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin and North Carolina to sign the petition by October 21. The Super PAC has become the seventh largest outside spender during the 2024 election cycle, spending $106,031,817. The company is backed by Sequoia Capital partners Sean McGuire and Doug Leone, who have raised more than $100 million in venture capital. The firm has raised over $100 million in venture funding since 2009. The group has raised a total of $1.2 billion in the last 5 years. The PAC has spent $106.2 million in the past 3 years. According to the Federal Elections Commission, including $74.9 million from Musk, the organization has become one of the largest outside spenders in the history of the election. Our next story is titled, The Most Beautiful Word in the Dictionary. Donald Trump sat down for an hour-long interview with Bloomberg editor-in-chief John Micklethwait yesterday. The conversation was mostly centered on the economy, and Trump played the hits early by describing tariff as the most beautiful word in the dictionary. Trump claimed that large-scale automotive factory projects in Mexico had been abandoned once it became clear that Trump was running and was competitive. The Mexican peso promptly slumped after his comments. As we approach the November 5 election date, the Treasury's curve has trimmed the steepening that had been a feature in September. Recent flattening has been mainly due to the rising short-end yields. Yields finished lower across the board yesterday, with the short end continuing to outperform. The inflation pulse seems to be fading fast almost everywhere else. The final read of September CPI in France saw the year-on-year EU harmonized figure revised down 1 tick to 1.4%. Canadian September CPI undershot expectations by 2 ticks. The Empire Manufacturing Survey unexpectedly fell to a reading of -11.9 yesterday. Our next story is titled, Liz Cheney under fire for allegedly improper contacts with Cassidy Hutchinson. Rep. Liz Cheney is accused of unethically contacting a key represented witness to get her to change her testimony. Rep. Barry Loudermilk, Argyle, chairman of the House Administration Oversight Subcommittee, has released the new evidence. Loudermilk alleges that Cheney used an encrypted phone app to evade defense counsel. Cheney is a D.C. licensed lawyer. It is not clear politically or ethically if the bar officials would be inclined to pursue Cheney as an investigating member of Congress. She had an institutional interest, if not a duty, to pursue witnesses. Cheney has claimed that it was Hutchinson who reached out to her and indicated that she was severing her counsel. Hutchinson, Griffin, and Cheney have been reportedly campaigning together this month in support of Vice President Kamala Harris. In the end, there are ethical concerns raised by these communications. Cheney should have worked through new counsel. The record does indicate that Cheney was not just aware of the represented status but the policy of the House. Our next story is titled, Reparations 2? Kamala Harris ramps up Black pandering campaign. In 2012, President Obama dominated the Black vote by an 85-point margin. Today, Harris is up by just 54 points. The numbers are even worse among Black men aged 18 to 45. When Harris was a senator from California, she co-sponsored a bill which would create a federal commission to examine slavery reparations and provide guidance. The more people hear from at VP 2020, the more likely it is that he will be the worst VP in history. Or at least one of the worst ever. Either way, he's going to be a disaster. He's a terrible VP. He will be a terrible president. He'll be a disasters. He won't be a president for all Americans. That's what I'm running for. I am running for president. I'm not running to be the VP of the United States of America. I want to be president of the US for all of us. That's what I'm trying to do. Our next story is titled, Goldman macro trader warns things are in a worse place than many recognize. Goldman Sachs macro trader Bobby Malavi talks macro, micro, and markets. Malavi, the S&P had just hit its 45th all-time high. That concludes our AI-generated news summary for today. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for our next episode.